So there is a program in Newfoundland that for a small fee allows you to go back to kindergarten for a day as an adult. For 6 hours, you can wear mismatched socks, finger paint, play with blocks, drink apple juice, eat graham crackers, and most importantly to me, have nap time. They have a waiting list 3 months long. Robert Fulcombe's oft-cited essay, all I really needed to know, I learned in kindergarten, comes to mind when I think about this program back east. The other thing that it reminds me of is the extra reason why we have gathered here this evening for this Shabbat on one of the very last Shabbatot of the summer, and that is our Welcome Back to Camp Shabbat. Because camp, like kindergarten, is a magical place where children are really the most important people. A place where you generally eat kind of terrible food, but still you look forward to meal and snack time all the time. The cheers, the songs, the sitting with your bunkmates, seeing your friends. Camp is a place where you can totally be yourself. You can wear whatever you want. You can comb or not comb your hair if you have hair. Showering is optional until your bunkmates tell you it's no longer optional. Where the closest thing to parental supervision is a university-age counselor who themselves may still be learning to make their own bed, keep track of their own things, and not stay up too late. And there's no cell phones at camp. At camp, you make friends. You learn social skills, you gain independence, and of course, you have hours of outdoor fun. Color wars and capture the flag and swimming and so much more. Sleepaway camp helps Jews and Jewish youth establish strong friendships, ethics, and pride, all of which contribute to a lasting sense of community. And community is found in every corner of camp, by the lake, in the dining hall, during elective activities, in the bunks. Once a camper described to me camp, and she described it this way. She said, it's like having a sleepover with all of your friends for like a long time. I'm really close to my friends at home, but most of my camp friends I'm closer with. If you go to sleepaway camp, you're guaranteed to make at least one good friend. I have like so many best friends, basically everyone in my bunk. End quote. It was an actual quote. I wrote it down. It was so good. Camp is awesome. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel once described Shabbat as a palace in time. And for most non-Orthodox Jewish teens and tweens, his description more closely fits the few weeks that they spend at Jewish summer camp, where the whole experience from Shabbat to Maccabiah feels like a palace in time. But then, camp is over, and the tears begin. They really begin. If you want to understand mourning and sadness, stand on the basketball court on the last morning of the session of camp that your children are attending. Just stand and listen to the wailing, watch the hugs, the promises to never forget their bunkmates, the bargaining with parents to just wait a little longer before we pack the car and load out and leave. Every summer, I get a refresher course in my own pastoral skills as we drive out the camp gate, and during those hour-long drive back home, the wailing and the waves of emotion that are flowing forward from the back seat. Of course, this too is by design. We want camp to be so magical, so transformative, so special that our children appreciate the experience that they have had to the point that mourning its inevitable and necessary conclusion is just that powerful. Because we mourn things that are special to us. We mourn things that are important. Logic, reason, time, all the factors that will ultimately help us work through our sadness, they're irrelevant in that moment. Be it camp, illness, or death, God forbid, of a loved one, the end of a relationship, the bigger our tears, the bigger that thing was to us that we mourn. There is so often a direct correlation between the two. The psalmist proclaims, "Teach us so to number our days that we may attain a heart of wisdom." We need experiences at every age that are finite and precious so that we can appreciate what we have while we have it and while we're experiencing it. One measure of maturity, I would say, is our ability to realize this in real time, as it's happening, or even before it has happened. This is true of any age, because maturity is not chronological, it's experiential. The more and varied our experiences and the effort that we make to reflect on those experiences, the greater wisdom and empathy we gain. Camp, for all its frivolity and its silliness, is actually a maturity accelerator. It helps children value and evaluate their life, choices, and circumstances. Taking our children out of the bubble of that carefully curated childhood and letting them practice many of the social and emotional skills that they and we will need the rest of our lives. As a parent of a camp-age child or children, I've often joked that summer sleepaway camp is really a gift that parents give themselves. A few precious weeks in the summer without the daily responsibilities of parenting your children, a break from the schlepping, the cooking, the cleaning, the limit setting, the constant monitoring. And there is certainly, I think, some truth to that. But we know it's really not about us as parents. The investment is in them. It's in all of you sitting in the back row as children and as future adults. And yet I want to suggest that the lessons learned by our kids at summer camp about the value of experiences, the freedom to be ourselves, to express who we are, how we are during these precious weeks of summer, are not only for our children, but those lessons are lessons for parents and grandparents as well. There is a saying about camp: you live 10 months for 2. You have 10 months till that magical summertime for our children of any age will come again. If we, parents of camp-age children, then we have 10 months to plan how we will use their time at camp to grow ourselves, to recharge our relationships with our own parents, with our partners and friends. And if you're grandparents who have grandchildren that go to camp, by the way, you're often the ones that make that financially possible, and we thank you for that. You have 10 months to think about how you will use that time when your adult children are not pulled in so many multiple directions. And you can renew and reimagine your relationship with them. For adults and children here and watching from home, just as we use the month of Elul to reflect and prepare for the new year that comes with Rosh Hashanah in just a few weeks, we can use this time in the shadow of camp and the dog days of summer to think about how we grew and how we were changed by the experiences of these last few months of summer, whether they were spent at camp or far removed from our camps. How we will live and prioritize the next 10 months till we return to that magical place again, that island in time where we can be free of the constraints and the burdens of life without camp. Further still, how can we, with Shabbat, create an island of sacred time and space, we could call it day camp, if you will, during these coming months, so that we can have a taste of camp life and camp time without having to wait 10 months till next summer. Now, they say one more thing about camp and time that is it's a lesson worth repeating. At camp, we say the days are like weeks and the weeks are like days. It all goes so very fast from one day to the next, but when you are intentionally immersed in your experiences and your relationships at camp, those moments, they feel like they could last forever, that they could last a lifetime. And so, like going back to kindergarten, I think that we would all like to feel that way again, if only for a few hours or a few days. We can create that island and palace of time. We can do it right here. We don't have to wait 10 months. Shabbat Shalom.